The core issue that grabs your attention here is that while the Indian government has set and publicly announced specific targets for integrating sustainable aviation fuel, SAF, into its airline fuel supply, it has yet to follow through with a critical step, actually choosing the locations where this infrastructure will be built. This gap between planning and implementation highlights a common challenge in pushing forward on environmental initiatives, setting ambitious goals without immediate clarity on the logistical execution. Recently, the central government approved tentative goals for blending SAF with traditional aviation fuel, ATF, for international flights, aiming for a 1% blend by 2027. But here's where it gets controversial. Despite these targets and promises from authorities, no airports have yet been designated for setting up the necessary facilities to produce and supply this blended fuel. In Parliament, Muralidhar Mohol, Minister of State for Civil Aviation, emphasized the government's plan to gradually increase the SAF share, initially aiming for 1% in 2027, then scaling up to 2% in 2028, and finally reaching 5% by 2030. These targets are aligned with India's international commitments under the Carbon Offsetting Reduction Scheme for International Aviation, CORSIA, which the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, adopted to combat aviation's contribution to climate change. Under CORSIA, airlines are required to offset carbon emissions that exceed a predefined baseline, which encourages greener fuels like SAF. Meanwhile, public sector oil companies are actively working on pilot projects and even larger-scale facilities to produce SAF, using both standalone processes and co-processing methods that blend sustainability with existing refining techniques. Yet, despite these positive steps, the Ministry of Civil Aviation has been silent on the critical question: which airports will host the infrastructure needed to realize these goals? This disconnect between planning and action raises some important questions. Are the logistical and infrastructural challenges underestimated? Or is this delay a strategic move to ensure infrastructure is properly developed before announcing specific locations? As 2026 approaches, the intended deadline for operational SAF blending, many are left wondering whether India will manage to meet its targets amidst this ambiguity. And here's where most people miss the bigger picture. The successful integration of SAF isn't just a matter of setting targets, but hinges significantly on infrastructure readiness. Do you believe India can bridge this gap effectively, or are these ambitious plans destined to be delayed? Share your thoughts. Would love to hear your perspective on whether this is a case of bureaucratic hesitation or something more strategic.